All righty. Well, let's start out with the Pledge of Allegiance. Clerk Holly, could you lead us, please?
I pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all.
Okay, now I need to find my little cheat sheet. Oh, you did call me. All right. We are convening the second meeting of the Board of Equalization and Review this morning at 8 o'clock as advertised. And we are going to inquire whether there are any people present who want us to review mineral or industrial accessions of their property.
Would you like me to check the hallway?
Would you please?
There's one.
Good morning.
The state called on Wednesday
Mhm.
and to double check, and they didn't have nobody had contacted them.
Okay.
That was funny. You opened up the door and Anthony was.
What were you speaking, talking about?
No, it's the Board of Equalization and Review, so we were looking for mineral or industrial interests that might be present. It looks like nobody's present. Is anybody present on Zoom to your knowledge,
Not
Amy?
to my knowledge.
If anybody's present on Zoom, could you make yourself known to the
It's just
commission?
Patty and Joy.
Okay, so only our staff is on Zoom, so there's nobody on Zoom. So at this time, I'm going to move that we reconvene the Board of Equalization and Review on February 10th
A second.
at 9 a.m.
A second.
Okay. And okay, Mr. Young, do you have any exonerations or anything like that for us?
I've got a consolidation form, but I had to drop Mason off at school,
Mhm.
so I came straight over here. I'll go get it. and bring it
Okay,
back.
okay, we'll just skip it and we'll come back to you.
Okay, I'll bring it right back.
Okay, there aren't minutes. Sorry, everybody.
That's bad.
I actually was in meetings all week.
We got Zoom.
Too tired. Vouchers and invoices. Okay, we don't have any vouchers.
State settlement.
Do we don't have any
I don't
state
think they-
settlements?
I don't think she knew.
Huh?
I don't think she realized there was a meeting today,
Who?
Lisa.
Oh, okay, it's fine. We have another one on the 10th.
Yeah.
Okay, so no state settlements, no meetings, so moving right along. We have already resolved the New Roots Farm agenda items, so it is no longer necessary to be on the agenda. 8:30, so we're gonna be starting the 9 o'clock agenda item for Meadow River Trail.
Was Matt or?
Matt will be on there, but I told him 8:30
Okay, well, we can,
Take a
and
break.
Chapman technical. will be 8:30.
let's just take a short break and that'll give Eddie time to come back and give me time to knock out some minutes.
Okay, let me tell you.
Did you
I
what?
can tell, it looks like it. I had to pick out a
What'd you say?
shirt that matches.
All right, we're back. Let's go. Did Eddie leave? What?
But he came in, he went back out again.
Did he not have any? Did he have any?
Yeah, he had some. Well, I
Okay.
think he did. I'm sorry. I think he did.
We can get him at the end, I guess.
Yeah, we can. Amy, I just sent you 3 sets of minutes.
Okay.
I'll get us through December and then I have the January ones left. All right, well, let's move on to Meadow River Trail. Mr. Ford, you want to come up to the microphone and update us on what's going on?
Sure. So there's 3 items on the agenda. One is a master agreement with Chapman. It's a little bit of playing catch up. There was some FEMA clauses that are included in their proposal that need to be excluded. And that's the master agreement. There's no cost in that. It just has all the FEMA required clauses. And then there is the contract with Gold Technical. They were the low bidder on the FEMA repairs for Fayette County. And I brought a map. It's color coded by what funding source it is, but all those FEMA repair sites are. So there's the Russellville Bridge down, and all the FEMA repair sites are the yellow dots in between now and Russellville Bridge. And that's what their contract will be complete. And then lastly is a discussion of the next steps on the Russellville Bridge project. My understanding, the county decided to remove that contract with or agreement with the DOH. That's under process with DOH. We had a site visit for this section up to around Burdett's Creek. Was the last bit, right? And that's the TAP grant funded work. And the DOH was in attendance at that pre-bid meeting. And he mentioned that the request for the funds back to Fayette County is the process. They were just calculating the amount of the interest so that they can include that interest amount in the wire transfer back to Fayette County. So that's going very smooth. I'm real happy with that.
So what do you need from us today?
Need the master agreement signed, Chapman. The contract with Gold Technical signed to get them started on the FEMA repairs. And we need to decide if we're going to go with the bridge contract out to bid to replace Russellville Bridge. And if so, Chapman needs to be in the contract to do that bidding process. They provided 2 bids or two contracts. One included, and Roger, you probably talk better about the contract, but one was for bidding the contract with the construction contractor and construction management through completion of the bridge. However, my understanding, you're not quite sure whether you want to move forward. You want to see what the cost is. So he prepared a proposal just to get us to the point to where contracts let out for bid. You get bid back. He evaluates what the legal bidder is and what that cost is. And that's all that proposal that Black Knight sent there. Yeah. So if you want to talk about that, we can have some discussions. One request is there are, if you decide not to sign a contract, I would like to not discuss his number.
But
Because
we've
that's
already,
out to bid.
yeah, in fact, I was gonna ask you when we discussed those to say, don't say any numbers because we've had instructions for somebody. Thank you.
Had to happen to me. All right. Thank you.
I just say postage, that's the original second. So, what we had sent you was proposed. Like one takes it completely through construction. Better award contract, build the bridge. It's been our experience that on these types of projects where we have a pre-engineered bridge, that is, the bridge is being designed and constructed off-site, that it's a good thing. It's cheaper on the upfront. So contractors, they're able to bond that type of work because there's not a lot of iron workers involved or anything like that. So the project is a little more economical. What we find though is because what they're looking for is a bid bond, and it's 5%. So they're in the neighborhood of $50,000 or $60,000 of bonding, and So we get a lot of bidders, which is good. On this TAP project in matter of reference, we have 18 contractors in the project, which is great. We'll have the same thing on Russellville. What happens though is, because of that, we get a lot of folks that may or may not have experience in building bridges. And so we have to approach this thing as the worst case scenario. So in the first proposal that I gave you, it's broken down into a lump sum fee, which covers the standard stuff for administering the contract, reviewing shop drawings, the erection plan, the removal of the debris out of the river. There's a lot of stuff in there. But it also has a component for on-site inspection. And this kind of flips over into a lot of heavy engineering where we're bringing in bridge engineers to inspect the subsurface, geotech to make sure the soils are what we anticipated them to be. So when they go out, they dig a hole for the footings. The geotech is there to look at it, say, yeah, this is what we figured it would be, or no, you can't do this, you have to do something else. So that yes, no process is part of it. And so not knowing the type of contractor we'll get, we put in a not to exceed amount. And like I said, that's a worst case. If we don't need it,
But wouldn't you know what kind, don't mean to interrupt you, wouldn't you know what kind of contract you're gonna get, because you've got to make the decision whether they know what they're doing or not? If you're hired,
yeah, well, I mean, we would bid the project out and the contractor would be selected. So we know right now we have a contract.
right, but you do help with the, letting us know that the contractor has the ability to do it correctly or.
Well, you know, funny you mention that. I don't know if if there's a qualification, if FEMA requires, if they will allow qualifications to be introduced in the bidding process, or if it's just low bidder. That would change things if we could say, okay, well, if it's a depends on or something like that. Depends on- Yeah,
Yeah, we'll have, Bill is on the line. We'll have him address, the bidding requirements for FEMA. And then there's also the discussion of, because we have the two proposals from him, it gets us up to the bidding process or to the bid evaluation process. And then, if you decide that you don't, the 5G process, we need to make sure it's, so the selection of him for the rest of the project, we make sure that's completely legitimate and legal. Bill's going to address that.
Okay.
Sure.
I was probably jumping the gun, I'm sorry.
Yeah, oh, no problem. I just want to make sure.
Okay.
Okay.
Can you unmute Bill so he can chime in?
Sometimes I don't ask the
He has
questions
to
in my
unmute
mind, I forget.
I forget, I know, I do the same thing. Hey, Bill, can you hear us?
Yeah, he hasn't, I had unmuted him before I left. There he is.
I can hear you. Can you hear me?
Okay, great, we can hear you now. Can you go ahead and update us, please?
Yes, I had actually, and I apologize, we'll start off with a quick question just to get a clarity on the last meeting where the commission voted to move forward. What exactly did we agree to move forward on? Was it to go to market with the construction bids, or was it the entire path to that included a direct hire of Chapman Technical?
Construction bid.
I thought it was the bids too.
That's what I thought. I mean, unless I'm wrong.
Okay.
Is that right? Is that what you think?
Right. So as far as the question of whether we should perform a 5G process, I'll always err to the conservative side because that's a big issue with the Office of Inspector General and following local procurement procedures. However, overlaid on top of this is our long timeline. So if you look at the 5G process where it is about qualifications and not necessarily about cost, we can work ourselves into, as long as we recognize the process. We've already alerted the state that we are doing this in hanging our hat on Division of or Department of Transportation performing the 5G internally. And then their follow-on desk audits that we're hanging our hat on that. Ultimately, if the commission decides to perform another 5G process, that is certainly acceptable. The concern I would have there would be the obvious time it would take to perform that, then make a decision and move forward on that.
What is 5G?
It's a reference to the state code 5G for procurement of architectural engineering services. So that's the actual, the state code reference, the state code number.
Yeah, when they refer to 5G,
Yeah.
Okay, Bill first.
That's okay. Yeah, FEMA basically requires us to follow our local, state, and federal procurement rules. So when you overlay all those requirements on top of that, the ultimate standard here is the 5G standard, where it's about qualifications, review, and the process, just going through the interview process. So there's a very scripted song and dance, if you will, to get to the ultimate result on the 5G process. That stated, if we can perform it quickly and cover ourselves with that process, I would prefer that. The only hesitation I have here is the long timeline, and in discussions with FEMA, they are very lean forward in trying to help us, but that patience won't last for long. So we certainly couldn't drag this process out. We need to be prepared to perform it rather quickly, get the numbers, and then get to our final result. FEMA actually is doing more review than I've ever seen them do with procurement in the background. They're asking for full bid tabulations on another client in another disaster. They want to see the entire bid tabulation process, which is a rather new analysis for me. So they have a process. It's called VAGO, validate as you go. So they're peeling the layers of the onion, if you will, all the way to the center part of our process before they'll obligate a dollar. So if you want to perform the 5G, that's great. I would always agree with that conservative approach. The guidance that we give, consultants give, is to pick the most onerous process that you can imagine, and you might be safe. And it's just literally, it's because the reviews will come years from now, and the Office of Inspector General audits will come years from now. We just need to make sure that we're recording every decision, why we're making those decisions. Matt and I have worked with Roger extensively and with your staff to line out why we are where we are with the several administrative actions just to get this project moving along.
In other words, if we change that, it could cost us. Okay.
One question that I have, so we're talking about the replacement of this bridge, right? There is another bridge that is right here. And then there's an abandoned rail line that goes right along here. And we talked about that being an alternate path. If we go through the 5G process to select a consulting engineering firm, architect engineering firm to do this work, not knowing whether we're going to replace the bridge or we're going to remove the old bridge and build this new section, can they advertise both options and evaluate qualifications? Because right now we don't know which route we're taking, right? So we don't want to wait until you get the bid in and then decide what that scope of work is going to be for the engineering firm. Does that make sense, Bill?
It does. It would just add a layer of complexity to that ask for the general market to look at the two options. But that is that's a good compromise way to get all of our answers at one time. We ultimately need that answer up front. That's a great way to approach it.
Yeah. So I just did a statement of request for qualifications for this yellow line, Fayette County, the red line's Greenbrier County. That's the section that's going to be constructed with the abandoned non-lands grant that Greenbrier County received. Just went through the process, selected an engineering firm for that. I can help with putting that RFQ together that will include both options. And then if you decided the way I could envision it to be conservative, we go through the 5G process. This project for the bridge replacement could be in the process of being let out for bid, and at the same time, you could be initiating that 5G process to make sure it's your decision, make sure to go through that process and are compliant. Does that seem like a logical approach, Bill? That they can be concurrent?
It does.
I like it.
It does. It gets us a lot of answers. You know, my only caveat would be it needs to happen with post haste.
I can get an RFQ on this.
Instead of waiting, yeah, it's time consuming if we wait, if we do both at the same time.
You've got the same option. I mean, essentially, an engineering firm that submits a statement of qualifications, we'll just evaluate them on their ability to manage this project and manage this, because it's both options.
So you're saying that what y'all were hanging your hat on with us doing the work, since the DOH selected us through the 5G process, is not valid?
We're not sure, right, Bill? I mean, is that?
No, yeah, we're not saying it's not valid, but we do need to address the fact that this is a large architectural ask, a large project for your skill set. So the county, to get a little bit better assurances and to try to stay as compliant as possible, is taking this prudent route. So it doesn't invalidate any of that. It just protects the county a little bit more in the long run.
Do we know what DOT already spent money on? Have we answered that question yet?
They hired us
Yeah.
to design the bridge.
So we're gonna get everything but that amount back, and you guys are still on that particular part of the project? Is that the answer? So the money that has already been spent is being put to work right now?
It's already, I think
Done.
it's already.
It's already done.
It's already happened. They designed the bridge, correct me if I'm wrong, Matt, they designed the bridge, and the cost that she's talking about has already paid them to design the bridge. Correct?
In the future, if you choose to select another engineer, more than likely they're going to want to probably won't take our seal plans and put them on the street. They're going to want to review them, but they take on the liability at that point.
I mean,
Do you hear him, Bill?
I think I caught part of that.
Hey, Bill, so the plans that we've prepared are final sealed plans by our engineers. More than likely, if you select another engineer, they will want to review those plans, and since they're taking on the liability of building them. So there will be some time invested in that as well.
You just said they probably won't accept it.
That's right. Yeah, that's a fair point, is that the other engineers would be reticent to launch from that without their own review process, because they'll have to stamp it and take on those liabilities. So we may experience some slowdown in that process, going the full 5G route, and if we ultimately end up picking another vendor.
That cause problems?
To the timeline, for sure.
what did we select Gold Technical to do?
We're
talking about Chapman designing the bridge. What is Gold Technical?
they're
supposed
doing
to do?
the FEMA funded repairs, like
Yeah, they're doing the
basically culverts
repairs.
and washouts that occurred. Here's Russellville Bridge that Chapman.
So throw out including
These individual yellow dots are the FEMA repairs that Gold Technical.
Okay, so the things that need to be done is the repairs, and then we need to have a bridge, or we need to circumvent the bridge. Is that right? To get this done. What I would like, and I mean, I don't know about you, I know you understand a lot more about it because you're doing the trail stuff, but I feel like you guys are making decisions here and recommendations in front of us that you could have gotten together before the meeting and conferred, and then came in with some recommendations so we can kind of figure out what our best way forward is. It seems like you're talking some of that out in here, and it's confusing me. I mean, I would like to have you come in, what?
Go ahead, I'm sorry. I'm sorry.
But I mean, you know, and I need to say
Clear
too,
path.
like,
However, we're trying to adhere to your concerns.
do
You
what?
broke up, Bill.
I couldn't hear you.
Yeah, I was under the, and I think we share that observation. We have talked this out in the background in that we were, especially myself, was under the impression that we had a clear path forward with the direct hire Chapman on all fronts, even realizing this is a large piece of the work. But we're taking a respective step back right now, trying to address your concerns, which are valid. But we do have a clear plan in the background, if you will.
Okay, well,
So
And
the goal technical part was the thing that was already put out to bid. The sealed
Right,
bids
right.
opened and that was
Right.
approved.
I
The
remember
only
that.
questions with that, so maybe
We
that should be better addressed first with any
Yeah.
questions Anthony has to see if we can just sign that and move forward.
Did you have time to review that? I mean, we got a
Did I read-
60-some
did I read all
page.
92 pages? No.
Tell him your concerns. I don't want to tell him, I don't have a problem telling him, but I mean,
I mean,
coming from you would be a lot simpler.
you guys know how I feel about mandatory arbitration.
Yep.
I think it is the devil's workshop. But that's my opinion. It's in the contract. And basically what that means is if there is a dispute, it gets submitted to the arbitrators
In whatever state they pick.
and they get to decide who's right, who's wrong. Basically, what kind of compensation will have to be paid by one party to another. You generally have limited options for appealing if you don't like the decision. But it is what it is. The other question I have is contract sum. It basically says the contract sum shall be $47,854, subject to additions and deductions as provided in the contract documents.
Yeah, those are any addition to this point, which there aren't.
Okay, well then, if there aren't any, why don't we strike through that language and say the contract price is the contract price?
Those are standard AIA documents that we use, and while we can manually strike through them, we identify them as attachments. If there are any, they would be part of the contract.
Well, to be honest, I looked, I couldn't find the document that addressed additions. Additions.
I'm gonna think. We signed this today. And we find
So I guess my
out-
question is
Is
there, I mean, is there some kind of a cap?
That's what we signed, so we have to sign a
This is
contract.
what they do.
We don't have any verifications
Yeah.
or any bids or engineering to do the
That's, I
other.
mean,
part.
I'm not trying to.
Yeah, I
We
think
decide
it's-
not to
It's
do
not
the
a
bridge.
paragraph.
Yeah, if we decide not to do the bridge. for
That
the
paragraph
first time, I
says,
think that's
here's
what
the
Matt
cost,
was saying. I
but
might
the
be
cost
wrong,
could go up.
but
Yeah, if they.
put it out there, we get two options. They put both of them, maybe if you don't order a bridge.
And then I
So
also.
that basically what you're saying
Sorry, I
there,
didn't hear all that.
if we just go with this the way it is, it doesn't give us the option to go away with the bridge and it costs us more money. Is that?
Go away with what?
In other words, we don't do the bridge and we go the opposite way.
Mhm.
He's saying it's gonna limit us to the bridge option if we do it this way.
Well, it's gonna cost us, if we sign this, we don't have any other option engineering.
So this, just so we're clear, is the goal technical? You still have options for the bridge. If you hire, you've selected the low bid for goal technical for the FEMA repairs. That's separate from the bridge replacement.
Okay, so we're not talking about bridge replacement.
We find out back and forth.
It's section.
Hey,
Yeah, we went, so the questions that he has on the contract are the contract with goal technical. to do
Oh,
that.
okay. I thought it was for the bridge. I didn't think about that. Okay.
And the whole Fayette County process is confusing, to your point. They put everything in one worksheet, and then it was managed separately as it went along. Like, so, like the goal technical part, but now we're at the point where it's all managed by Fayette, which was the process of the DOH. where they're not managing the bridge replacement.
Now, you was talking about getting two engineering or two bids out for the bridge, one for the bridge and one for the alternative route. You mentioned that, correct?
So what you would, when you put a release out, legal ad, and you say, we are requesting statements of qualifications from qualified architect, engineering firms.
The other thing is.
You have to tell them what
Section
are they gonna be doing?
5.8
So if you could put in there,
completion
the
of
project
material
consists of replacement of Russellville Bridge that has been designed by Chapman Technical Group, or the project will consist of removal of the existing bridge and designing of an alternate route.
Okay,
Yeah, so you just make sure to say all that.
okay, you have said all in one.
Yeah, and then that way,
Okay.
when they provide their statement of qualifications, it's tailored to those two potential scopes. of
Okay,
work.
two potential.
Yeah.
Okay, we're clear, okay.
That's not- that's-
I understand better now. Sorry, Ms. Taylor.
Doesn't say
So
you can't hold that accountable.
Okay, I'll come from a
for
contractor
my
standpoint.
edification,
Oh,
so you are going to do RFQs for each option, whether it's building the bridge or doing the path around the bridge.
We can. So I feel like I need to back up a little bit. So the process has been, it's been the understanding that we
Sure,
were.
which conversation I'm supposed to be saying. I know. Okay, so
Just saying.
why don't we just start from the beginning and in a logical way, tell us what the next steps are to get this project done? That's what I want.
when you do an RFP and you have the contractors coming out for the show and they're doing their bids, how can you say, okay, we're going to do this, or we're going to do this? Wouldn't you, because in the past I was held to this, have to do a RFP on the bridge itself and then come back and rebid if we see that's too high, the second part? Okay, so this was too high, but we still want you to pull the steel out and then rebuild this other bridge.
That's what you're going to do. So there's the RFQ process and the request for bid. You're talking about the request for bid. We're referring to the qualifications. It doesn't. So there's discussion of gold technical contract. Can we get that out of the way?
Yeah.
So we can decide whether you're going to sign that.
Yeah, so instead of standing here trying to look through pages, you want to have to go back and try to respond to his questions.
And then one issue that Commissioner Brenneman brought up is the contractor's license is not signed, and it also expires in February. So
Flip to the next page.
is both of them? So so as far as timeline,
Is there a signature on it?
timeline on the gold technical contract is Roger let Gold Technical know that they were the low bidder, and then they had to get bonds. So in order for us to put it on the agenda, we were not going to put it on the agenda for signature until they provided their bond,
Right.
which is what delayed getting this to the commission.
Right.
So-
Payment performance bonds are, we won't start a job without.
So my recommendation on this, given the concerns with the contract language, the contractor's license not being signed and almost expired, is go back to Gold Technical, work and get updated documents, and if you can work through the contract language. And then once that's done, give it back to the commission to review. Once it's reviewed and everybody's good, we schedule it on the agenda to sign. Does that sound, that way we're not, it's all squared away before it's sent to the commission for signature.
Can you think you can get that done before the 10th?
We meet the 10th and
Yeah.
then again the 16th.
Yeah.
And yeah,
I can't be here on the 10th, so if you want to let me here, to me.
16th.
The 16th. is
16th
fine.
would be better.
And listen, so in the future, I think that would have been better to have a lot of this worked out. I mean, like, you can't give us, and I'm giving you a list of our meeting dates and deadlines for this year, but something with a 93-page contract for our prosecutor to go through with a 3-day suspense before we put something on the agenda. That's just untenable. I mean, there's just a lot of detail here, and you know that even though my colleagues seem to understand it better than I do, you know, you're gonna need to explain things to me and get things to me in enough time for me to call you and ask me questions.
That's fine.
And let him go through, and there's no contract that we are gonna sign or consider that he has not reviewed. And so, you know, when it's 93 pages and he's just indicted, you know, 40 people or something, you know, we've got to work around those schedules. So try to, if you keep track of these, and these are the deadlines that we need the materials in by, that will help a lot.
When's the 60-day bid hold up? That's what we're working against also. That's why I went ahead and said that.
Well, we're meeting every 3 days of February, and then we're going to be meeting every week in March. So if we need a special meeting to squeeze one in there, we will, but for this, but I just want to make sure that we have all the documents we need well in advance, so we can, especially when we're talking about, you know, multiple contracts to sign that are, you know, one's 93 pages and another one's several pages, and, you know, because I will read them all, and he's going to read them all. And, you know,
So if, how much
like,
time-
and they're gonna read them too, but I'm gonna be looking at them legally too, so,
There's two other.
But I know what I can skip.
yeah,
She's reading it, right? Yeah.
well, because he's reading it.
Yeah.
The other thing is, it's not my place to make a decision about whether or not to go forward. It's the commission's decision. And if the commission's willing to go forward, understanding the risks, then I'm happy. It's not my job to say do it or don't do it. It's my job just to let them know what the risks are. The problem is knowing the fiscal situation that our county finds itself in. When I read language in a contract that gives the vendor the ability to charge us more money, it's a red flag. My
Right.
job is to let
Right,
my client know.
especially without a
And like I said,
renegotiation.
I'm not trying to be, I'm not trying to be difficult, and this right here is why people don't like lawyers. Well, I mean, let's call a spade a spade.
That's what I like, lawyers. I
Um,
like lawyers.
I mean, me personally, I don't understand why it takes 92 pages to say, we're gonna do this for this much money, but, contract law is not my area of expertise.
So mine either,
But just two other concerns, and I pointed this out to you, but I want the commission to know, section 5.1.8. It talks about completion of the work is delayed through no fault of the contractor, the owner shall pay the contractor any additional amounts in accordance with Article 9 of AIA document A201-2017. And so that's another paragraph that potentially puts the county in a position where we may have to pay more money. And then I noticed one of the exhibits, the Attorney General's office approved the contract as to form in October of 2018. And the date on the contract is January of this year. I mean, I'm just, I guess.
Talking about the supplemental general conditions that they provided.
It's somewhere at the very back.
Yeah, it's
Yeah,
it says
this is the
January 2018.
Yeah, that's their effective date.
Yeah.
That's the current set of supplemental specs. that they provide.
Okay, so you're approving supplemental specs, is what you're saying.
That's correct.
And that's not been changed since 2018.
It is not.
So my only concerns realistically at this point are the degree to which the county commission would be exposed to additional.
Right, and I think we're, like I said, how much time do we need to review this?
I mean, I could probably get it done in a week. I mean, I've already started. It's not.
Right. So like, if you reference the section that that document is talking about for the liability of the payment.
So I couldn't find the Article 9.
That's right, it's on page 20.
Oh, it's got to go there.
But since there's a lot of confusion on this, so you want to set it for the 16th or the 10th? It doesn't matter.
It is, I mean, it's up to, I guess, the lawyer reviewing it and the other two commissioners.
Yeah.
I'm game 10th or the 16th, whatever.
Yeah, and if you can send us an electronic copy
You have it. I sent it.
I'll get it.
for the new one.
Okay,
Let's do it for the 16th.
you have this one.
Right.
Yes.
Yeah, that was included with the agenda request. The issue was, is we
That was
didn't-
what
yeah, that's the one, we didn't get that until,
The only thing that's different is the contractor license, which I didn't receive yesterday. I'll get him to sign this and
Okay,
sorry about all the confusion.
so can we have a summary of what we're doing and what next steps are? Do we need to sign something today? Does this Russellville bridge replacement?
so the next step is for you to decide whether or not you want to bid the Russellville Bridge replacement. So I think I'll go through the process just because you were asking the questions about the process and two different scopes. So if you, when you bid out the Russellville Bridge project for construction, you can then decide whether or not to award that construction contract. The question all along has been, how much is this bridge replacement going to cost? And the answer is, we don't know until you get the bids.
Right.
So bidding out the contract will let you know at that time what the bridge will cost. And then you can decide, you have a certain amount of time to figure out whether or not you want to award that contract or not, or rebid, which could change your cost and then you're back to not knowing what the bridge cost. So that can be done independently of the process, the 5G process of selecting an architect and engineering firm to do either construction management. So you would have, if you, let's just say you went through construction of the bridge, you would have a construction contractor that you awarded for construction. Then you're also going to have that engineering architect firm to do the construction oversight. So that's the part you're doing the 5G process. If you decide to do that. The issue we have with how Chapman was selected, it's not, it really wasn't, we assumed all along on the process that the steps that DOH took to select Chapman sufficiently met the 5G process. In discussions, when did we talk? Monday, there was concerns about whether there were concerns about the 5G process at DOH. So when Bill, correct me if I'm wrong, the only way to ensure that Fayette County is taking the proper process is to not rely on DOH and do it yourself.
That's the uber, right. That's the uber conservative route, is for the county to go ahead and initiate its own 5G process.
Let me stop you right there. So when you said the DOH's selection of Chapman met the 5G process, so with regard to the Russellville Bridge, Chapman has already designed a bridge and been engaged in this process and selected by DOH.
Yes.
And now we are going to bid it out in case somebody else wants to bid on. I mean, I'm confused.
Yeah, so
We've already paid to have work done and it's been done. So now, and they were chosen through the proper process. And now we're considering whether we want to use Chapman or whether we want to build around the bridge, or like, what are we doing?
So there's two parts to that. You're trying to determine, the decision that you have to make is, do you want to rely on what DOH did to select Chapman? The issues that Bill and I have is when you go to DOH and you say, tell us your 5G process, they just give us a letter that said we followed the 5G process. Correct, Bill? There were no, DOH has their own way of selecting contractors. And if the DOH would have stayed and bid the project out, the bridge construction, Chapman would be doing the work because they're under the contract with DOH. Where the change that has been made is the DOH is no longer going to be involved in the bridge construction.
Right.
So Fayette County is going to manage that. So does the work that DOH did to select Chapman, does that automatically carry over to Fayette County or not? I can't answer that question. Bill, can you answer that question?
I can make an attempt. I would say yes, primarily because the original agreement that was signed between the county and DOT placed DOT in an administrator position for the project. So they basically did it at your behest. And so at that point, we could hang our hat on it. And, you know, anybody who's worked with the federal government knows that the way we did it, Matt and I, through email, we received a response. So it's recorded with timestamped and dated from Division of Department of Transportation that they did indeed not only integrate 5G, but they performed 5G in this selection.
So the question at hand is, I'm just going to use Bill's term, hanging your hat. Are you okay with hanging your hat when the DOH going through the process that they've said that they went through, and we have documentation that they did, or do you want to do it yourself? That's a decision at hand right now in terms of just the construction management portion of the bridge replacement.
We hang our hat on it. Chapman's the people we have to go with, basically, is what you're saying.
Yeah. But to back up, you're not really sure yet whether you want to build the bridge or not. So,
Right, whether we have the ability to build it.
So is this DOT process the one that pretty much squeezes out smaller bidders because of the bond requirements and that sort of stuff?
that's on the construction side.
So that hasn't happened. So people who could have bid could have competed against Chapman
Yeah,
during the DOT process.
you've eliminated that concern, I mean, in terms of the DOH requirements narrowing out bidders by not continuing with DOH managing the bridge construction.
No, what I'm talking about is what was done before. So what I'm saying is, you know, when you say, you know, are we comfortable with hanging our hat on DOH's process? Is DOH's process the process that does tend to preclude smaller businesses from bidding because of all the high bond requiremements that they have?
We're talking about engineering, not construction.
Okay.
And the engineering is based on qualifications. The same process, like if you decide to do it, you do the 5G process yourself. When they submit statement of qualifications, they don't include cost. When you evaluate it, you don't evaluate it based on cost. You look at their qualifications, you pick, usually it's the process is, you know, if you get 100 people who send in statement of qualifications, you would select 3 to interview based on the paperwork they give you and their qualification. You would interview those 3 and you pick the top 1. And then that one you would negotiate cost with. That's the 5G process of selecting an architect.
See, I don't have a problem hanging my hat with this, but we don't know whether we want to do the bridge yet or not. We don't whether we know we have funding that it's set there to do the bridge with.
So we have a couple questions. One is, if we're going to do the bridge, who does it? And if we're not going to do the bridge, who does it? Right?
Well, it's going to be, you have two-step process. First, you hire the engineering company. Engineering company develops what the bridge will look like, or the new bridge will look like.
There you go.
And then you put it out to bids to the contractors.
There you go.
So the contractors then start bidding, and that's when you know what your price is going to be for the cost of the bridge.
We got a magic marker.
But if Chapman already designed a bridge, wouldn't Chapman know that information about its bid? I'm not asking you to tell us what it is now, because I think that's what we decided not to do. But I'm trying to understand why we're
Going to get a Sharpie.
What was your
revisiting.
question? I'm sorry.
Well, the way I see it is right now, we're at where we decide whether to have Chapman go forward with the bridge or ask for others to put in their qualifications to see if they would be competitive for the bridge, or if we're going to go with the option that doesn't include the bridge, right? Okay. And why are we revisiting whether, if we choose the bridge option, whether Chapman does it? If DOT has already gone through all of that? Do we have doubts that DOT went through the process the way we would want them to, and which parts of the process are we concerned that might not have been done?
So Bill and I were not concerned. We had a phone call with Fayette County staff that indicated that there was concern from the commission about that process. And if there's no concern, it's all a moot point.
Have your pick.
So if I may add, the complicating factor here is the fact that we are unsure of the final scope of work. It would be preferable if we determined the scope of work before we move forward with any of it, to be quite honest with you. We had worked ourselves into and providing for your records the rationale for a direct hire for Chapman Technical in a similar fashion as with the trail sites under now Gold Technical doing the construction work. Chapman would be involved. We felt it would be the same way. We just got an indication that you, the commission, had concerns on moving forward, being that it was such a large architectural engineering piece on the bridge. So if we could get to one determined scope of work, that would be best. This will, for lack of a better terms, muddy the waters on the FEMA side of things. FEMA will rightfully come back and respond with, well, we've already approved, and the county commission signed off on this approved scope of work years ago that we were going to replace the bridge. So if we waver on that, it does add time, and it does kind of put the cart before the horse a little bit.
What is the status of our request of FEMA for a time extension?
We actually have one product that needs to attach to it. FEMA is aware that it's coming in. I've spoken with the state and FEMA as recently as well. So they're working with us to, once we get the official document handed over to the state, FEMA actually asked us to include them in the transmittal so then they can go ahead and schedule a technical review exchange between their engineers and our engineers. So we're right at the cusp of moving forward and getting a FEMA decision as soon as possible. And they're aware that we have a lot of these things going on in the background. So for now, they're being patient.
Okay, so you have drawn some things.
So I just wanted to talk, so it's been a while since we talked. So what I'm gonna go through what I'd recommend. So you're gonna bid the bridge, right? And then you're going to decide whether you go with the bridge or the alternate route once you get the bid price back. So Chapman provided the second bid. They provide the lower bid price or proposal price was just to get to bid the project. So you know what this bridge is going to cost, and you can decide whether you want to move forward with the bridge. Now, as Bill mentioned, if you don't go with the bridge, there's all kinds of delays that are going to happen. This alternate route is still owned by CSX. So you would have to go through the process of purchasing that alternate route from CSX.
I thought we already decided against that last time, didn't we?
Said it would take too long to cut.
Wasn't that an option C? Like there was options A, B, and C, and B was the
Okay,
one we picked?
But we did.
Yes, ma'am.
Yeah, you're right, we did. But what if that bid comes in at $4 million and we only have $2 million? I'm just rounding numbers off.
For the bridge?
Yeah, let's say what happens then. That's why we need to bid first. Go ahead, keep talking, man. I just wanted to throw that out there.
So this alternate route, there's issues with CSX. You got to do the environmental, which is go in and CSX has a requirement you sample every so many 100 feet. Then you got to do design again. And then there's issues with the DOH to make sure it's compliant because it's adjacent to Route 42 through there.
41.
41, yeah, 40 something. So that's going to take, all this takes time. Okay. Odds are that's cheaper than building the bridge, but we've got you've got Bill working on FEMA reimbursement for the bridge. So once you get to the bridge, there's two parts to the bridge. Is you've got the construction contractor, and then you've got the engineer, architect. Okay,
Engineer, architects paid for, or
No.
engineers paid for.
well, not, this is for construction management.
Oh, okay. The engineering of the bridge is paid for, but that's not, okay.
Yeah, so all that was done, what DOH did,
Yeah, okay.
like the design, this is far, like this is timeline, this is what Chapman's already been paid for.
Okay, yeah, okay, gotcha.
Yeah. And you sit, where you sit now is you have a completed bridge design that Chapman completed. You bid out the work, you know what it costs. Now, if you decide to run the SOQ route, we would include, if you decide to, both options, and it sounds like you may have already decided to just X this out, but there's still some questions. If you select someone besides Chapman, then you're gonna have to go back up to this step again. Because if I'm architect engineer number 2, I don't trust Roger. Roger doesn't work for me. I'm gonna make sure that the bridge that we bid out meets our design standards, because we gotta stand behind it now. We don't stand behind Roger's work, I stand behind my work. So then you're back here, then you bid it again. Does that help at all? So what needs to, it seems like to me, the first step is we gotta know that.
Yeah.
Once you know how much this bridge costs, then you know whether you're not doing that or not.
If it's been designed, why don't we know what it's gonna cost?
You gotta bid it out.
You gotta bid it out.
So now it's just time to bid it out.
Yes,
Right. The complicating factor is if we're bidding it out to see if we want to do it or not, and that's not going to sit too well with FEMA.
Okay, now that makes sense.
yeah.
Okay.
You need a sidebar? Okay.
So. Proceed with the bid. Before we're. Move forward with the bid the bridge.
And his price to bid it out is less than,
Yeah,
so,
yeah, it's more than
Is
what
that
it
what
was.
this is?
Yeah, it's more
Yes.
than, it's more than what it was in the original one.
Well, so the plans are also 11 months stale.
Okay.
We have to go back and do them ourselves. Because it was.
Well, I wanted an excuse why. I was gonna ask that just for the heck of it.
yeah.
It's more than what the original one was, so if that's the excuse, okay.
So,
They're already out there.
so I get it. The commission's concern is always that, right? So,
Once we have that, we know where we
you
stand.
know, then you can make the decision.
Yeah.
And that's where Bill comes in and says, yeah, this costs too much money, but FEMA will pay for it. Or if you go this route, FEMA may not like
Right,
the alternate. That's where we'll have that discussion,
Yeah.
but we really can't even, all this,
that's gotta be done first.
this is speculation.
Right.
How much that bridge cost is speculation, whether you're going to do the bridge or the alternate route, speculation, until you know how much it's.
The sooner we do that, the better off we'll be.
So
That's what I think.
approving Chapman's bid to get the bridge price
Just a bit.
is where you're at.
As long as
So-
you don't need glue for carpet and
The
stuff.
item we need to consider right now is this bidding $11,500 to handle the bidding process. for us.
And the master agreement that has no cost. That's just the FEMA clause.
What's the master agreement? Which one
Is
is
it
it?
And
one
you
of
may
the
need more time to
documents you
review.
sent me?
It is.
Well, so in all reality, that was submitted last night, and we're required to have everything 2 days
Right.
prior for public review according to state code. So the earliest you could sign that is the 10th, even though it's on the agenda, it wasn't available for public review. And then if you will point out which one of your 5,000 pages you sent me is the master agreement, I will be glad to print that for them to review.
Yeah, well, I'll send it and I'll just send
Yes,
that
because,
that
yeah,
proposal for the bidding of the bridge
right.
and the master agreement for Chapman in a separate email. And then I'll do that today, so you have that.
Right.
And the master agreement for Chapman is the one what does it entail that this,
It's just all the contract language for FEMA that FEMA requires. Bill, you've got a better handle on.
just for them to do the bridge bidding?
That
No.
is the work they're already doing, that they're doing on.
I was under the impression this master agreement would be for Chapman Technical per what we decided in the last commission meeting, Chapman Technical to move forward managing the bridge replacement.
We were gonna update that, but then we realized we didn't have one for the individual repairs yet.
So this, the individual repairs is when we're talking about signing next, right?
That's for Gold Technical.
Yeah.
Right. the one you've
Yeah,
already
okay.
approved.
Yeah, the master agreement should have been executed when you select Chapman to do the trail repairs, that they're already designed enough to be.
You mean in the beginning of time, when all this started, we should have signed
For
that?
sure. And at the time, we were trying to preserve the relationship with DOT and not throw the proverbial baby out with the bathwater, if you will. Just moving forward, the options presented to the
So Bill-
commission and the tight timeline we're under, it just made more sense to separate. And if you remember, I don't have a way to show, I pulled up the document, but I specifically worded the option B choice that included language talking about Chapman Technical being involved in the bridge replacement in total.
But that master agreement contains the language that Bill had DOH signed, but yeah, so.
And we're trying to deal with CSX. You're looking at a year and a half. Yeah,
I want to know what the scope of the master agreement is. What is it supposed to cover of all this? Or on your map? Like, is it supposed?
It's realistically, you're not gonna sign it today.
No, I don't want to sign it today and I
So-
don't even want to read it today. I want to
Yeah.
generally know the scope of what is in it. Like what is it for? What's its purpose? Because we've got this letter for this is to handle the bids for the bridge, right? Okay, so does the master agreement do? What is Chapman going to do under the master agreement?
It's FEMA's boilerplate language that they require to bring us on board. So if there's.
To bring you on board to do
do
which
the
part?
Engineering work, anyway. Whether it's trail work, bridge work, construction work, design work, anything that you do to.
Bid.
When you procure our services, FEMA requires that document for us to bring us on. So that is more of an onus on us to agree to it because there's language in there about environmental stuff that we only have during construction.
But this master agreement, it sounds like if we're bidding the bridge, wouldn't that come into effect after we bid the bridge and choose Chapman to build it?
There's other stuff being done.
Which
They're
other
they're
stuff?
already, if you can see it, I mean, I can't quote what's in the document. It's just generic FEMA language that talks about, Bill, what's the generic FEMA language you're always wanting added to these contracts? You might add it.
The minimum required clauses,
Yes, sir.
you gotta understand the question.
My question is, what does this master agreement with Chapman that we're to review and sign next meeting? What is its scope? Like, what are we asking Chapman to do with that master agreement? I understand that this small agreement in front of me is to have Chapman manage the bidding process for the bridge. But what does the master agreement with Chapman that we need to sign cover?
It covers just the minimum federally required contract clauses to ask Chapman to do anything with us that would include the management work on the trail sites. And then we could also take the option of extending that standard over to the bridge replacement itself. So
So
just
right
puts-
now, it would apply to overseeing the work by Gold Technical. Okay, and then if we end up choosing Chapman to do the bridge, it would extend then to the bridge.
It would allow us to, and pardon the language here, I'm sure it's a different term, would allow us to annex or appendix in that master agreement to Chapman to expand its scope of work to the bridge. Is that right, Matt?
Yeah, so it's for the work they're already doing and the work they may do. There's no, only thing attached to it is the PW for
Which is what,
the worksheet that FEMA sent out that outlines all the sites. Yeah, so.
So basically it doesn't obligate them anything other than what they was already gonna do through FEMA anyway. Okay.
You're just covering your bases. with FEMA.
Right, so this
Yes.
master agreement covers things like equal opportunity, equal employment opportunity. Hiring practices for our company. Clean Air Act. Work product.
Yeah, an administrative CYA.
basically all the federal compliance.
All the federal,
Boilerplate to
See-
bring us on board.
FEMA's paying for it. So you're doing the master agreement to say, hey, FEMA, we've agreed with this company to take care of it. This is who you're going to be doing with the release funds.
FEMA's already agreed to do it.
And then the second component
They already
is going to
are.
be to decide who builds the bridge, right?
Yes, ma'am.
Yeah, that's,
If you decide to go with someone else, like let's say you do go through a separate 5G process. If you do that, then you would have to sign another master agreement, just to make sure those clauses are in the contract. But it doesn't, there's nothing in that agreement that says Chapman will for this amount of money.
yeah.
Nothing ties them to it.
But in this master agreement, that's why I'm asking what the scope is. So the master agreement for Chapman right now does or does not include the bridge. I understand it could be extended to include the bridge work, but right now it doesn't. Is that correct?
There's actually no scope
There's no scope.
in the master agreement. All it is just say you'll be using Davis Beacon for pay, your equal opportunity employer. It's all the federal guidelines.
Right.
But
And that's,
Chapman's role that we are providing this, what we are telling FEMA Chapman's role is what?
they're just.
Right now, FEMA,
They're the engineering.
You decide what Chapman's role is in the project when you execute those contracts for individual work with Chapman. So you've decided to have them do the engineering and construction oversight on these yellow operations. You have not decided to have them do construction management on the bridge yet.
Right, so this is with regard to the gold technical work that we're talking about, this master agreement, right?
No,
No, maybe Mr. Taylor, well, just say 2 on the 10th or 16th.
Yeah,
It's just CYA with a bunch of federal clauses that carry, like FEMA has requirements, they just have to carry forward.
No matter if he does it or anybody else
Anybody
does
else.
it, we'd have to sign it separately for somebody else.
And there's no scope of, it just pertains to that works to the, ties it to the FEMA project that you're working on. There's no cost, they will perform by the state. That's all in the acceptance of the proposals and costs.
yeah, it's our version, our internal version of what we asked DOT to do late last year, was to bring in those minimum required contract clauses.
let's pick a date. What day do we want to do this?
Today you feel comfortable with, Mr. Taylor.
We do that on the 16th also.
Let's do it on the 16th. And Bill, I'm going to give you a call so you can walk me through this. I actually was a COTR with the federal government. I'm not ignorant of all the bureaucracy and ridiculousness that comes with anything the federal government does. And, you know, but I just need to understand all these different documents in front of me and what they mean and what they're for and when they need to be signed and that sort of thing. And I'll
put it
review
up there.
Plan B again, so I'm refreshed on what it says in it, but I, I understand that most of this is standard stuff and you guys understand what it is, but I need to have it explained to me,
Absolutely.
its purpose. So I will get educated with him and then we can reconvene on the 16th on this issue. So I move that we postpone all of the Meadow River Trail related discussions to February 16th
I second.
second,
at 11 a.m. All those in favor?
aye.
Aye. All right.
Thank you.
Motion to adjourn.
Or we don't know, we gotta get back, we've got a couple
Okay.
things we have to do, gotta back it up. We don't have, the assessor in here about the combine, divide and segregate. And then we have minutes ready. So why don't we take a 5-minute break?
Yes, ma'am. Just take a 5-minute break.
5-minute break. Thank you.
Can you put us on one?
Hang on a second.
Guess who wants in?
Wait. Hey, Eddie, can you come back over right now? Okay, thanks.
Oh, okay.
Yeah.
Okay, so Mr. Young, what do you have for us? Any combine, divide, segregate?
Miss Ruth?
All righty, see what you got.
Yes, it's one.
And as usual, it is the same property owner. So I move that we approve this request she asking to combine them. Looks like she's requesting to combine them.
Yes.
In one tract by Sharon Walters, 2 pieces of her own property.
I'll second.
All those in favor?
Uh,
Aye.
So is that one of the petitions?
No.
that you
She
have?
called in
Okay.
and, but we went out there and fixed the problem.
So
There
that
was an
one-
issue with it.
That one won't be on the 16th then. Okay.
He called in 3.
So I don't-
yesterday.
I don't have, do I have to sign this? I have to sign
Down
this.
there in the corner.
Yeah. Even better.
It's today the 4th.
yes, ma'am.
Can you get that?
All right.
Okay, and then the only thing we have left then is the minutes that Amy's getting for us. That will catch us up to, there's only one set that we don't have, which is the 31st that Abby just sent. So we'll have those by next
So we
week.
have the 17th, the 22nd, and the 15th.
Yeah, November 17th, yeah, November 22nd, December 15th, and January 5th is the one she's going to get.
Okay.
So if you want to take a look at those, so one of you can move since I edited them there.
Well, I make a motion to approve.
Second.
All those in favor?
Aye.
Aye. Okay, well, we can go ahead and adjourn then. I'll just sign these.
A motion to adjourn.
Second.
Let's go.
Yeah, when you look at me and you turn back
Hold
around
on.
and then
Hold on. I don't know how to turn it off.
And that what?
I'll wait till we're all.
Yeah.
Amy, turn this off. And show me how you're turning it.
See ya.
You leaving, John?
John, you rolling out?